Imagine waking up 50,000 years ago. There is no alarm clock, no calendar, no boss, no notifications. Yet within minutes, you're moving, looking for water, following animal tracks, gathering food before darkness returns. Nobody is telling you to be productive. Nobody is telling you to stay disciplined. Nobody is posting motivational quotes on cave walls. And yet somehow, your ancestors managed to survive, raise families, cross continents, and build the foundations of civilization. Which raises a strange question. If humans spent hundreds of thousands of years accomplishing incredibly difficult things without needing motivation, why has motivation become such a struggle today? The answer may have less to do with human nature than with the world we've built around it. And the first clue comes from a group of people living in the Kalahari Desert. In the 1960s, anthropologist Richard Lee spent years studying the Ju-Hwanzi people, one of the last hunter-gatherer societies on Earth. What he found surprised almost everyone. Most people assumed prehistoric life was a constant battle for survival, an endless cycle of hunting, gathering, and starvation. But Lee's observations suggested something very different. The average adult spent only about 15 to 20 hours per week obtaining food. The rest of the time was spent socializing, telling stories, making tools, caring for children, and resting. Yet, despite having far more free time than many modern workers, researchers rarely observed a problem that sounds familiar to millions of people today. Nobody seemed to struggle with finding the motivation to do what needed to be done, because what needed to be done was obvious. The environment itself provided direction. And that's where modern life begins to diverge from the world your brain evolved for. To understand why, we need to talk about dopamine. Most people think dopamine is the chemical that creates pleasure, but neuroscientists eventually discovered something stranger. In the 1990s, researchers studying reward systems found that dopamine activity often peaks before a reward arrives, not after. The brain wasn't rewarding success. It was motivating pursuit. Dopamine turned out to be less about liking something and more about wanting it. It evolved to push animals toward things that improve survival: food, water, status, social connection, mating opportunities. The system worked because those rewards were real. A hunter tracking an animal wasn't pursuing an abstract goal. He was pursuing dinner. The relationship between effort and reward was immediate, visible, concrete. But modern humans increasingly spend their lives pursuing things the brain struggles to interpret. Retirement accounts, quarterly targets, unread emails, performance metrics, deadlines months away. These things matter, but they don't resemble the environment in which the motivational system evolved. And researchers have repeatedly found that humans are far more motivated by immediate feedback than delayed rewards. This is sometimes called temporal discounting. The further away a reward feels, the less valuable it appears to the brain. Your ancestors rarely encountered this problem. If they succeeded, they saw the result today. If they failed, they felt the consequence today. The feedback loop was short. Modern life stretched that loop beyond recognition. But that's only part of the story, because motivation isn't driven only by rewards. It's also driven by challenge. And one of the most famous experiments in social science accidentally revealed what happens when challenge disappears. In 1968, researcher John Calhoun created Universe 25, a paradise for mice. Unlimited food, unlimited water, no predators, no disease, everything the animals needed. At first, the population exploded. Then something unexpected happened. Social structures began to collapse. Many mice became withdrawn. Others became aggressive. Some stopped reproducing entirely. Eventually, the colony died out despite having all the resources necessary for survival. The experiment became famous for a simple reason. It suggested that abundance alone is not enough. Living creatures need more than comfort. They need meaningful roles. And while humans are not mice, Calhoun himself believed the deeper lesson involved purpose. When individuals no longer feel connected to meaningful participation, something begins to break down. Ancient humans almost never faced this problem. In a small tribe, everyone mattered. Anthropologists estimate that most humans throughout history lived in groups ranging from roughly 30 to 150 people, a number remarkably close to what British anthropologist Robin Dunbar later identified as the approximate cognitive limit for stable social relationships. Inside groups that small, your role was visible. Your contribution mattered. People knew your name. They knew what you provided. If you were a skilled tracker, everyone benefited. If you were a storyteller, everyone listened. If you gathered food, people ate because of your effort. Your actions had consequences you could see. Modern life often removes that visibility. A person can spend decades working inside a system so large they never see the people affected by their labor. For hundreds of thousands of years, your ancestors lived inside systems that naturally aligned motivation with survival. Challenge existed, meaning existed, feedback existed, community existed. Today, those things still exist, but they rarely arrive automatically. They must be built, chosen, protected, which leads to a conclusion that sounds strange at first. Ancient humans didn't have more motivation than you do. They had less need for it. The environment was doing most of the work. The world around them constantly answered the questions modern people struggle with every day. What should I do? Why does it matter? What happens if I don't? The answers were obvious. Now they often aren't. And maybe that's why motivation feels so mysterious. Because we're trying to solve it as a personal problem, looking for a better routine, a better app, a better productivity system, when the real issue may be environmental. For almost all of human history, humans woke up inside a world that naturally generated purpose, challenge, connection, and immediate feedback. Today, many of those things have to be created deliberately. And perhaps that's the hidden lesson. Your ancestors didn't conquer a motivational problem that modern people failed to solve. They lived in a world that rarely created one in the first place. The modern search for motivation may actually be a search for something older, a search for challenge, a search for meaning, a search for a role that feels necessary, because the human brain was shaped for a world where those things were impossible to avoid. And the strange thing is that even after thousands of years of civilization, that's still the world it's expecting to find when it wakes up tomorrow. Maybe motivation isn't broken. Maybe it's working exactly as it was designed to. The world changed faster than the brain could adapt. And perhaps understanding that changes everything.